Hey guys, grab a notebook and a pen cause I'm gonna spill everything. Hi everyone, my name is Pauliana Jamie. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see in this jacket, we are gonna talk about UP. And not just about UP. Because after how many years? It's actually just a few years. But after how many years, the UPCAT has finally returned. And actually, my batch was the last batch who took the UPCAT. Because after that, the pandemic happened. So but anyway, we're here now. I got it and I'm really grateful to the Lord. And since it has finally returned, we are gonna talk about how to actually pass it. And for this video, we are gonna divide it into parts, which is the first one, my actual personal experience in taking the UPCAT, so that it will help you know what to already expect all throughout the process, and maybe you can get personal insights. And the second part, I'm gonna be talking about the really important details that you should know and to really think about and do your research on before, taking the UPCAT itself, which is about the required UPG, what to do about the right minus wrong rule. And the third part is that I'm going to give you specific tips for every subject itself that you guys will tackle, and the things that I wish I focused more on, and also the things that I did to really grasp all the information that I'm studying for the UPCAT itself. But keep an open mind that I am in no way affiliated with the UP administration. I am just a simple student who is and I was once in your shoes, wherein I was just also searching for some tips, and these are the tips that I wish I heard while I was preparing for the UPCAT, and I hope that it will help you guys as well. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, I am going to start from the very top, which is when I was in senior high school. I was already 18 years old, and I bought some reviewers from MSA. And those reviewers are specifically catered for the UPCAT itself, and they told me that whatever is on that reviewer, it is almost exactly like the same contents of the UPCAT itself. So I have a binder filled with all of the questions for each topic. Plus, I also bought 2 notebooks. The first notebook is specifically for formal notes, such as formulas for math, important details for every branch of science, rules for language proficiency, all those things. The usual style of notes that you take for school, that's my specific notebook for it. And my second notebook is a more in-depth explanation of each answer that there is from my MSA questionnaire reviewer, basically. Wherein, for example, in math, let's say that for this particular question, I wrote it down in my notebook, the computations and the formulas that are needed for this particular problem. And then that is where I also put additional notes to it. So for the whole month that I was in senior high school, I was still studying at pabuhat at that time. I only gathered notes for the UPCAT. So every recess time, my friends and I will already eat a very heavy meal, so that in lunchtime, we will all study for the UPCAT by ourselves. And honestly, my friends and I are more comfortable in studying alone. And if we have any questions that need clarity, we just ask each other. Although, if you're someone who needs to study in a group, you can find yourself a group of people who has the same study habits and study methods at the same as yours. But honestly, I highly suggest that you focus on your own pacing, not on your study group's pacing, because when you're studying in a group, you tend to compare what you already know versus what they already know. If they know something that you don't, you will get to panic because you will think that you're left behind. It's just chaotic. I've seen it basically. It will make you lose track of your progress of what you already know so far, and it will just overall make you confused. So honestly, what I did was that I just stick to my notes and reviewers I have. And this is why I told you to buy a reviewer that is specifically catered for UPCAT. Again, mine is from MSA. But again, it's not like every question there is gonna be present there, but it is like the blueprint of what you will expect that they will ask in the UPCAT. And it's easy where you can see the answers immediately. So don't try to overcomplicate things. Only go to a group study if you have questions where you don't understand a certain topic in. For example, since you have a reviewer and you have been trying to have a trial and error in math and you can't understand how you will get the answer, that's when you start asking for help. For me, after I ask my friends and my classmates, I then ask my professors because maybe they have a shortcut method in getting the solution. I'm talking about math basically because that is mostly what I asked about before. So yes, I believe that is the most helpful and the most important strategy that I had when I studied for the UPCAT. And basically, again, I just really focused on my own notes, on my own reviewer, where I'm at, and I only ask help whenever I am confused. To explain this even further, in a more formal way, more than just my personal experience, as to why you should be very diligent in actually already studying on your own. Because when you're gonna study at UP as well, you're literally already also by yourself. So it's not like high school anymore, guys. And not only that, the reason why this is also effective is because when you keep on meddling and comparing your notes to their notes, what you know versus to what they know, what you're studying to what they're already studying, you will be processing so many information and you might have cognitive overload. Cognitive overload is that you keep on processing so many information all at once to the point nothing is really entering your mind. It's basically overloading. You're not absorbing any information. Because when you do study for the UPCAT, it's important that you just don't memorize it. It's important that you understand why that's the answer. I will tackle later how I studied alone and how it was very effective given even if it was just like a short amount of time. Moving on, the day before the UPCAT itself, I just let my mind rest. I just took a nap, crocheted, listened to music. I didn't even watch a movie or series or even I didn't read a book, even if it's just for entertainment, because that's another additional information in my mind. On the day of the UPCAT itself, now, I remember it as clear as day. Taking the UPCAT, it was so fast. Like, I don't know what words to describe on how fast it was, but again, it is really fast. And yes, while I was studying, I did practice with a timer a lot, but again, it's crazy fast. So if ever you're stuck in a question and you really know in yourself that you're not really like close to knowing the answer for more than 30 seconds, girl, dude, just skip that part. Just go back to it when you need to. And you know, when we were lining up before taking the UPCAT, it was like really noisy. Everyone was so confident. I was so confident. I was so confident. I didn't even bring a reviewer. That's how confident I was. I thought it was like a normal day for an exam and stuff like that. But when we left the examination room, because it was like dead silent. No one was talking. All we heard is our footsteps going down the stairs. Again, I believe the bigger impact as to why everyone was so quiet, we didn't expect that it will be that fast. But fast forward, I passed. By the grace of the Lord, I just didn't only pass the campus of UP itself, but I actually passed the degree that I wanted, and thank the Lord, cause I thought that we only have like a few slots on that degree, which is actually the degree that I have been praying for, and the degree that like literally I had no doubt of wanting to take, which is multimedia studies. So again, Lord, thank you. I just didn't pass my dream course that I want to take, but I'm taking my dream course in my dream university. Okay, so after my personal experience, I'm gonna talk about the important details that you should really know and really don't take it for granted.
Okay, first is the UPG computation, aka the University Predicted Grade, which is the basis used by the UP system in ranking all of the applicants. UP combines several factors such as UPCAT test scores, high school grades, geographical location with respect to the campus that you applied for, and nature of high school attended. And the rating of 1, which is the highest, to 5 is the lowest, which is then given to a student. Your UPCAT test scores amounts to 60% of your UPG. And first year to your third year high school grades, which is roughly about 40% of your UPG as well. And to obtain the final UPG, other factors are integrated by either adding or subtracting a fraction of a point from the initially computed UPG. With regards to discussing what would potentially be added or subtracted of even just the slightest fraction of your point, we will now be talking about the pabuhat and palugit. The UP admission system includes several bonuses and penalties on your UPG. Your palugit is a bonus of 0.05 an applicant coming from a public barangay, public vocational, and public general high schools, excluding those administered by state universities and college and science high schools. A palugit of the same amount is also given to applicants who are legitimate members of cultural minorities. Now, pabuhat rather is a penalty of 0.05 which is given to the UPG of applicants who apply for a regional campuses that is not within their geographical area as their second choice of campus. One example is a student from Luzon choosing UP Cebu as their second choice campus, and if that student chose UP Cebu as their first choice, although coming from Luzon, they will not have a pabuhat. And speaking about campuses, to qualify for a campus, this is the updated estimated UPG that is needed for each campuses. And once you qualified for the campus that you have chosen, it still doesn't stop there. Even if you passed the campus that you desired, it doesn't mean that you can get any course that they have, because from that first screening of qualifying for a campus, the second one is that you also have to qualify for the degree program, and they all have different requirements of what kind of scores that they ask from you. To put it in simpler terms, let's say for example, if you are applying for an engineering program, they require that your score should be at least 70 over 100 in math. But let's say that even if you pass the campus that you wanted, but your subtest scores in math is 69 over 100, you are not able to be still continuing with the course of engineering. They will ask you to look for another degree of what you want to pursue. So if you make it to the quota for your first choice program, you will no longer be screened for your second choice. If you don't make it to your first choice of degree program, you will undergo the same screening process for your second choice. If you still do not make it, You will remain qualified for that campus but must then find a degree program that can accommodate you. Now, next we are going to talk about the test itself. Does it have right minus wrong? The UPCAT differs from the other entrance test because it deducts 0.25 or 1/4 of a point if you answered an item incorrectly. In a way, you are slightly penalized for a wrong answer. Note, however, that you do not get a deduction if you leave an item blank. The question now is, do you guess or do you leave an item blank if you don't know the answer? It would be better if you can eliminate a wrong answer before guessing so that your chance of getting the correct answer is increased. But if you will ask what I did, I remember that if one of my answers is not part of the choices, I simply skip it, and then with the hopes of having more time to come back to it and possibly focusing on it more. But mostly, I just leave the item blank if I am not sure about it rather than just guessing.
But before I do dive into each of them, one bonus tip. So if you have like the same struggle as me, wherein Filipino is not really your comfort language, this is the time wherein you really need to focus on getting in depth with the Filipino language. There's no Filipino test, but the thing is, every test, language proficiency, reading comprehension, math, and science, there are questions that they ask in Filipino. It was also in my reviewer, but there were more English questions than Filipino questions, but I didn't know that there were this much Filipino questions in the UPCAT. Okay, so now that we tackled about the Filipino incident, now let's tackle on one of the tests itself. First is language proficiency. So I highly recommend you guys to search some online exams about language proficiency. But the thing is, I'm very grateful that in language proficiency, in terms of the English language, I grew up kasi reading books. So honestly, if you want to study, if you want to enhance your language proficiency and reading comprehension in a fun manner wherein you don't feel like you're studying, read a book. You should read a book. At least, I do recommend a book. At that time, I was reading the whole series of A Series of Unfortunate Events. Not only because the story was interesting, but Lemony Snicket would also tackle vocabulary and grammar in A Series of Unfortunate Events. So yeah. Next is reading comprehension. Now, this isn't a tip, but I will tell you how I do this. The thing is, it comes both ways. Timer yourself on where you excel the most. On not just when I mean like excel, not just by how many correct answers that you get in these methods, but how fast you are in getting the correct answers. So there are two things. First is, it's either you read the question first and then you find the answer in the paragraph itself, or you read the passage itself and then you answer all of it. I do remember that when I was taking the reading comprehension test, what I did was I read the question first and then I find the answer at the passage itself. That is where my second tip really comes to play, which is the same tip that I gave in the language proficiency. Please read a book. Just read a book. Any book that you want. What I learned about reading comprehension is that they're testing you on how fast you can get the topic sentence. Okay, it's like I'm reviewing you guys. The topic sentence is basically the main idea of the whole passage. They will just literally only ask you 3 questions from such a very long passage. And honestly, I just realized that very long passage is just a distraction for you. And while reading it, I already figured out the pattern wherein like, oh, they're just really like distracting you from your time. What they just really want you to do is find the topic sentence fast. You have to practice finding the topic sentence itself, because when you do find the topic sentence itself, you can already answer all the questions that they have for you. Now, after reading comprehension, I have science. Now, okay, in science, it's actually also very chill as long as you studied. They rarely ask advanced questions from senior high school topics. They don't really ask that. They only mainly ask general questions about science and math of the things that you learned from junior high school. And basically, if you have general science or general math, those are just the questions that they ask. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, so the math exam, if it gives you any comfort, it's not as super complicated as it is. But my first tip when you're going to do the math exam is that focus more on memorizing all the formulas that your reviewer gave you. In terms of that, when you do memorize all the formulas that you have, when you're about to start getting your math exam already, before you start opening your booklet at your math exam, write all the formulas that you memorized in the upper right corner of your scratch paper. That's basically what I did, and it really helped me with wonders. And next, my final tip in terms of math is timer yourself. I hope this video has helped you guys, and honestly, these were the tips that I wish that I also knew when I was also studying. One thing that I also hope that I would have heard when I was studying is that just chill, because when you do study hard enough and you did do your best in studying well for the UPCAT, it will pay off when you do so, and you also gave your all. That's already enough. So yeah, padayon, at sana makikita ko kayo mga future scholar ng bayan. Bye!